it's Kimberly here alongside Sophie and JC, the founders of Yogi Times. And we are super excited to be talking with one of our top coaches at Yogi Times University, Christine Hassler, who's going to be sharing a little bit more about how to live your best life. How are you, Christine?
I'm good. I just finished my workout, so I'm still a little sweaty, but got lots of that post-workout energy going.
Great, well, natural. It's good motivation for the rest of us. So I actually believe that you guys actually met way back when in Los Angeles. So you and Sophie and JC knew each other a long time ago. How did that happen?
Well, I think it was around probably 2004 or something like that. And I think I'd left my job by then. I was working as an agent in Hollywood, representing writers, producers, and directors. And I had my quarter life crisis where I left my job, my fiance broke up with me, I was estranged from my family, I was in debt, and I was dealing with a lot of health issues. And yoga was one of the places that I found solace. Like it was one of my places of therapy. And I met Sophie in that community and heard about Yogi Times, and I really was interested in writing back then. This was before I wrote my first book, and I wanted to write for different magazines. And I thought, what better place than Yogi Times? And it was really cool. I just always really identified and resonated with Sophie and JC's like brand and vision, and I just wanted to be a part of it. So that's how I recall it. I mean, it was almost 20 years ago, so yes. I think that's about it.
Yes, I have a very vivid image of you. We had talked on the phone, and then you came to our office, and you were so bubbly and so excited, and you asked me to write a little preface for your book. And it was really amazing I was really amazed by your energy back then already, and your desire to speak to the people like you that were going through their 20s, but you already had that desire to serve and support the community, even though you were yourself going through so much. It was already about sharing, which makes sense in what you've done the last 20 years.
Oh, well, thank you for that reflection. Sometimes I wish I had that 24-year-old energy back.
Yes. That's true, because then we were in our 30s, and we were working a lot, for sure, building Yogi Times.
Yeah. So tell us what inspired you to become a life coach, life spiritual coach.
It wasn't really an inspiration. It was a bit of an accident. It was never anything that I planned to do. I think that in my 20s especially, there was a part of me that just really wanted to be famous. And that's why I was drawn to the entertainment industry. And it wasn't really that I wanted to be famous now that I've worked on myself and more self-aware. It was that I was desperately insecure, coming from issues that stem from childhood, that formed a lifelong story of I'm not enough, and I'm not good enough, and I don't belong. And I think some part of me always was trying to prove myself. And in some part of my mind, I thought, well, if I can be well known, then people will like me. Because I really struggled with making friends and not thinking that people would like me. So that was my drive for quite a while. And when I left the entertainment industry and started writing, I thought, well, maybe that's my avenue to become more well known. But what started happening is, as I was writing and as I was working as a personal trainer, when I'd interview people for the book or when I'd work with my personal training clients, they'd say things like, you're so easy to talk to. Or when I was interviewing people for the book or for articles, they'd say, well, can I set up a session with you? You're a coach or a counselor or something, aren't you? And I kept hearing this over and over again. And I was seeing my own coach at the time, which was different for me because since 11, I had seen psychiatrists and psychologists. So life coaching, and she had a spiritual bend as well, was a whole new world to me. And I went to her and I said, people keep telling me that I should maybe think about doing this. And she confirmed it. She said, I really think that that's your gift. I feel that's what you're here to do. And at first I was a little frustrated because I thought, geez, lady, I've been coming to you for 4 years trying to figure out what the heck my purpose is. You could have told me this. And she said, no, it was for you to discover on your own. So that was really where it started. 20-something, 20 everything came out in 2005. And I started seeing clients just right before it came out in 2004 first as a life coach, trained by my life coach, then went and got a master's degree in spiritual psychology and another one in consciousness, health and healing, and NLP and hypnotherapy and all different kinds of training and programs. And so it really was, I feel it was just guided and came from almost me letting go of who I thought I needed to be and what I thought I needed to prove, and discovering really, truly what I love. And I've never looked back. I absolutely love what I do.
Nice. So such a nice way to weave yourself into the healing process yourself, and then to share it right away as, you know, discovering your talent, which might not have been the talent that you were envisioning in thinking of becoming famous. Exactly. But yet what you were gifted with was really the talent that was going to help you do that. What is it specifically that you can pinpoint that you really that you had the ability to overcome and then, you know, move forward with? What was it specifically?
I think there were two main things. The first one was what I was sharing before, this old wound that came from being in 4th grade and a bunch of girls passing around a mean note about me that turned all the girls against me. It's amazing how one thing can just set you up for life, but it's always healable. Always healable, no matter what it is. And that story of not feeling enough, not feeling like I belong, not feeling that I could make friends, not feeling like I could trust women, really put me on a track of overcompensating by being an overachiever. So that made me very hard on myself. That made me, I had challenges staying in the present moment because I was always looking at my next goal or my next achievement. I couldn't just be happy in the now, because without an external thing to validate me, I didn't know who I was. So my identity was all wrapped up in what I did. I had no clue who I was beyond saying my name, my age, and where I lived and things like that. I had no clue what I really wanted, because I was so driven by trying to compensate and prove myself. So that's definitely one thing that I have overcome, that desire to be famous, that desire to prove myself. It's just, I can't find it even if I try to look for it. It's been replaced by a desire to be creative, a desire to serve people. I feel like I've eaten at a really good restaurant in terms of the things that I've been able to discover and overcome and the tools that I have in my toolbox. And I just want to tell everybody about it and share with as many people as I can. And another really big thing for me is depression. I was put on antidepressants at age 11 and was told, you have a chemical imbalance. You will always need these. And Sophie and Jesse, when I met you, I was still on them, and I was on probably some anti-anxiety pills as well at the time. And I just thought that was the way my brain worked, because that's what I had been told by doctors. And I think we can put people like doctors and parents and teachers on these pedestals and give them a lot of power in our younger years and just believe what they tell us. And so it wasn't until Mona, that coach I was telling you about, that when I started seeing her in my mid-20s, that she started to offer the possibility that maybe I don't need them. Maybe other things were going on at the time and I don't have a chemical imbalance. Maybe I have a chemical imbalance because of emotions I've suppressed. But if I can get those emotions out, then perhaps this chemical imbalance can heal itself. And she really taught me that the body can heal itself, be it a mental illness or physical illness or whatever. And P.S., I'm not anti-medication. I think it's such a personal thing for people. You know, people really have to decide what works best for them. But for me, intuitively, I knew that if I wanted to get to the place emotionally, spiritually, mentally that I desired, and really feel like I could feel myself and feel all the feels and tap into my intuition more, that getting off medication was probably the route. So I was put on them at 11. I started the process of getting off of them at 29 and was off of them at 30 and have never looked back. And you know, that shifted a lot too, is thinking that I had a mental disorder, that I would always need drugs. And that's been a big thing to overcome as well.
Love most about you is the way that you combine the science of life coaching with the spiritual psychology. So your approach is really unique in that it really looks at the emotional, the behavioral, the mental and the spiritual side as a, you know, a holistic view of a person when it comes to reaching their fulfillment and living their best life. So my question to you is, what's your definition of living your best life?
Oh my gosh. I think that, first of all, that's an individual definition because everybody's best life is different. But for me, living my best life means I'm living in my fullest expression. So creatively, I feel expressed. Emotionally, I feel expressed. I don't brush things under the rug. I don't swallow my feelings. Verbally, I feel expressed. I speak my truth. You know, whether it be speaking my truth in terms of things that may be well accepted and things that may be difficult conversations, and really living into my full potential. And I think that really, if I had to boil it down to one statement, it would be living my best life means that I'm living in the present moment. Because if I'm living in the present moment, then I'm not future tripping and worried about things, and I'm not being nostalgic and wishing things could be different or blaming things on my past. I'm really just soaking up everything the present moment has to offer.
Nice.
Christine, can you tell us a bit about the process you take your clients through? How does it look like?
Sure. Well, in personal mastery specifically, it's a process through the different realms that Kimberly mentioned, and journeying through emotional, mental, behavioral, and spiritual when it comes to any kind of block in our life. So what I have seen with clients is that everybody's so different, yet everybody's so the same. Everybody's different in the way they see the world, or what their story may be, or how they react, or what their current challenge may be. Yet everybody's the same, and deep, deep down, there are some limiting beliefs that they're not enough, or that something's wrong with them in some way, or that if only I had X, Y, Z, then I'd be happy or confident or fulfilled or whatever. So that's the most common theme, is this deep down fear of I'm not enough in some way, I'm not lovable, so an insecurity, along with a limiting belief that if only I could change some external thing, then my life would be better. Across thousands of people I'd work with, that would be the common thing with everyone. So in terms of my work, it's really first looking at this core wound of not feeling enough and not feeling lovable, and how that happened. Because we weren't born that way. We were born knowing we're whole, complete, and nothing's wrong with us. And then things happen in our life, and we make those things mean certain things, especially if we felt hurt or shamed or judged or scared in that moment. And then our brain gets programmed, and we make decisions and behave in ways based on that programming. And so to get to the real truth of who we are, we have to go back and undo that programming. And we do that by giving ourselves permission to feel the feelings that we probably never got to feel, or that maybe we felt for a little while, but then we're told, good girls don't cry, big boys don't cry, be good, whatever. And we start to look at the beliefs that we form. So that's the mental level, really looking at the beliefs in terms of, in order to get love, I have to X, Y, Z, or if someone's upset, I have to make sure that they're okay, or in order to be lovable, I have to be successful, or in order to be desired, I have to be a certain weight, whatever the beliefs may be. And we work on the mental level with updating them and reframing them. And then on the behavioral level, really looking at the fact, and this is fact, that 90 to 95% of our behavior is subconsciously driven. That's a big chunk. So we'll say 90, we'll go on the lower end. 90% of the time, we're reacting and responding and making decisions based on our unconscious, subconscious programming that got put in place when we were 5, 6, 7, 12. You know, we're pretty much formed as people at the age of 12. And we don't much change. Of course, we learn new things and we grow. But in terms of the way we see the world and our belief structure, it's pretty much behaving and responding based on what a 12-year-old decided years ago. So on the behavioral level, I really look at, where is your behavior being driven from? Okay, so then we get to the spiritual level, and from a spiritual psychology standpoint, we really look at things as life happens to us. Sorry, That's exactly not the way we look at it. Instead of looking at it like life happens to us, we look at it
Happens
as
for us.
for us. And so we think that everything happens for our learning and our growth. So for me, the example of fourth grade and having those girls bully me and feeling really alone, we can look at it from the perspective of what was my soul seeking to learn. Maybe my soul was seeking to learn how to forgive, how to have self-acceptance, how to have self-compassion, and also how to be more compassionate towards other people. And I can see how it impacts my work in life right now, because one of my passions is making sure people feel like they belong and know that they're loved. Now, that's a beautiful place to get to, that perspective and that place of forgiveness. But it is so, so important to go through the emotional, mental, and behavioral first, because sometimes we can want a spiritual bypass. We can use something awful like, well, I was abused as a kid and it was awful, but it made me stronger and it made me realize who I can trust and it made me realize I can rely on myself. And although some of those things may be positive, we still need to go back and deal with the emotions and the belief systems and the behavior that kind of trauma created in a person, heal them, reshape them, reframe them, and then we can get to the forgiveness and the beautiful lessons. So that's why my work and in mastery, it's a very holistic approach. It's what's worked for me and what I needed. And I've been very blessed to have so many incredible teachers and training and, been all over the world and studied with some of the best people. And then I've been working with people since 2004. So I've had my own laboratory and I've had my own struggles. I just shared with you my quarter life crisis. There's been a lot more since then. And so I am my own best client. And I had to find a system that really worked for me and that also didn't feel like I was constantly trying to fix some things, because I think sometimes we can put ourselves in a course or a workshop and we can just be really attached to, I hope this works and I really want this to fix me. Whereas I look at it more as we're always growing and evolving as humans, and we need to have so much compassion and patience and resilience and willingness when it comes to our own personal growth and healing.
Nice. Yes. And it's interesting because there's so many coaches out there. I mean, when you started, it was not really hip to become a coach,
Right.
and you explained to us how you fell into it or were guided into it.
Yeah.
And now there's so many coaches out there. What is it that is about you? What is your specific approach or the way that you're interacting with people that makes so many people want to work with you?
Well, thank you so much for that. What people say is it's a blend of my compassion. I really make people feel safe because, again, this is what Mona, my first coach, taught me. She really held such a safe, non-judgmental space for me. And I think that that's where the magic happens, when another human being can just really hold this space of whatever you want to say, whatever you want to feel, whatever sounds you want to make, whatever snot may come out of your nose when you cry, I love you and I'm not judging you. And that's really the space I hold both live and in my courses with people, is just giving them the space to be human and not be ashamed about it. And then also just all the training and my intuition. I'm really good at just lasering in on what the issue is. I'm a bit of a human detective and help people really get to the core of things. So people usually end up with me or in my courses after they've tried a lot of other stuff, and maybe they've gone a few steps, but they just can't get as far as they need to go.
Yeah, it's interesting. You're coming a little bit at the end of maybe people having done some psychotherapy and having done some workshop, and then they all sorts of things, write some books, but not being able to integrate those books. And then you come at the end and then you just grab them in that precious moment where they're really ready to hear what you have to say, and then they integrate it maybe because of your compassion and your way of presenting it.
Yeah.
You have so many different ways to support people, from podcasts to books to your coaching. What would you recommend to somebody who is really new to this and wants the support but doesn't really know how to start? What would you recommend?
I would really recommend the podcast. So my podcast over at Non With It, there's 2 styles of show I do. Every Wednesday, I air an episode where it's a live life coaching session with someone. So that means it's unscripted, unedited, unproduced. I don't know anything about the person before I start. And you could just scroll through those and pick topics like stop, self-sabotaging, or how to deal with issues with your mother. I mean, there's so many topics we've covered. And I think the best way to learn when you're just starting out is hear other people talk about their blocks, their issues, their concerns, and hear me reflect back to them, hear the ahas, because what that's going to do when you listen to other people's stuff, it starts to access your subconscious and your own memories, and you'll start to have ahas, and you'll start to go, wow, that sounds just like me, or oh my gosh, that I'm crying and this isn't, I don't even know this person. Like, what is this bringing up? And I teach a lot in those episodes as well. So the numbered episodes that are the ones that say an issue and then with someone's name, that's where I'd really start, because then after you if you binge listen to a bunch of those, you'll start to get really clear on where the best place for you to start is in terms of your own personal development.
Nice. And it's such a safe place for people also to start, because they don't have to be confronted to another human being.
Exactly. They can just listen, and they don't have to, do any of their own self-reflection unless it happens naturally, because you're really listening to somebody else. Yes.
And the very first step of healing is making that phone call sometime and calling a coach and making that appointment. And not everyone is capable of doing it, so spontaneously. So easing them into the podcast is great.
And like you said, everyone has the same issues, so people will recognize themselves in your podcast.
Yes,
so.
Yes, exactly.
You mentioned the blocks to overcome. What are some of the common blocks you see that it's holding people's life back? What is, over the years, what has come very obvious to you?
Yes. Well, first of all, that old limiting belief, it's always old limiting beliefs and old wounds. So the block about not thinking you're enough, or thinking there's something you have to do to earn love, is a massive one. And then also just trauma that hasn't been processed. People that really haven't processed past abuse, or their parents' divorce, or moving around a lot, or bullying, or whatever, and carrying around that trauma in their body creates health concerns, sabotages things, so on and so forth, such that it's really hard for people to move forward when they're carrying around a lot of those things from their past.
Mm-hmm. So talking about that, you're offering a 3-part video that really explain how to overcome blocks, right?
Right.
Can you tell us a little bit about that so people understand what that is?
So this is really a 3-part video workshop, and you get a lot of training in this video. In the first video, I talk about, I've alluded to it in this interview, our compensatory strategies, those things we develop as children to feel safe, to feel validated, to feel enough, but they really don't get us what we want. So mine was the overachieving, to try to prove myself. And then I go through all the different compensatory strategies. Other examples are people pleasing. Other examples are being very controlling. Sometimes it's being the performer, the chameleon. There's different ones, and you really get to identify yours. And also underneath that, get to understand really, really who you are. And so you can stop operating from your compensatory strategy and start operating from your gifts. In the second video, we talk a lot about your avoidance traps. So as a coach, people tell me what they want, but they spend a lot more time and energy avoiding what they don't want. So for example, one avoidance trap is rejection. So if I am constantly trying to avoid getting rejected, then I'm going to take less risks in my life. And so you identify what your avoidance trap is, how you fall into it, and then I teach you how to get out of it. And then it goes on from there in terms of how to make shifts on the behavioral level, how to be more self-loving, and really how to start living a life from a more authentic place.
Yes. Well, I think, Christine, you've given us a lot of great information and resources here to get really excited about this, 3 free videos. And I really encourage everyone who's been listening to us to just sign up for listening to those videos, and also get in touch with you. You're so accessible and personable that definitely, when the person is ready, we say when the student is ready, the teacher appears, right?
Yes,
So.
There's lots of ways. Mastery course is great because when you're in that course, you also get, we do monthly group calls. So you get me monthly, and every month, there's no end to it. There's no launch period. And every year we have a free 1-day retreat, usually out in California. We have other coaches on the Facebook page. So you're being supported, because personal development can get lonely, And so we really wanted to build a community and a tribe where one, you're meeting like-minded people. Two, you're getting extra support from me. And three, there's other coaches in there as well, so you don't feel like you're doing it alone.
Fantastic. Well, it's an honor to have you on the curriculum of YOGI Times University. And
it's such an honor to be on the curriculum, especially after all these years. It just warms my heart. Thank you so much.
It's amazing how it gets all back connected 20 years later.
So cool. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Christine.
Thank you.
Bye.